Welcome back to the Popcorn Conspiracy on Central Coast Radio. Now, Harley and Kyle have jumped into the studio with me to take a look at a film that was out for a very, very short time in Australian cinemas, but is now available on streaming and Blu ray and DVD. Again, this is a film with a little bit of a difference because it's called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yes, you heard that right. This is actually a Winnie the Pooh horror film that has been made by director Reese Frake Waterfield because the Winnie the Pooh license fell out of copyright. So Winnie the Pooh is now free game for people, kind of, because you still can't touch anything to do with the character that had anything to do with Disney, but you can go back to the original books and now use Winnie the Pooh for whatever you like. So in this horror film, we see Christopher Robin, played by Nikolai Leon, return back to his friends Pooh and Piglet years afterwards. He's been away at university studying to become a doctor. When he gets back, things aren't the way that he remembers his childhood friends. Piglet and Pooh have gone feral because they no longer were getting food from their good friend Christopher Robin, and they were very, very lonely. So they've ended up killing Eeyore, and now they are not very happy that Christopher Robin has actually returned with his girlfriend Mary Paula Coys, and they go on a murderous rampage that just happens to coincide with Maria, played by Maria Taylor, and her friends heading to the same woods after Maria is told by a therapist some time away would be good for her. Unfortunately, though, they soon run into Piglet and Pooh. Now, I'll start with you, Harley. This is such an out there idea. Did it work?
Look, it had potential. Overall, I think there are a few issues with the movie that probably didn't make it work so well, but that's not to say that it actually couldn't. I mean, the opening and the setup kind of worked. The idea behind it, there was something there. I just don't think they capitalized on it as best they could.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually think this film worked better when it was just Christopher Robin and his girlfriend Mary versus Piglet and Pooh. I thought that had a lot of merit. I thought that really could have worked. If I'd been making this movie, I probably would never have introduced Maria, sorry, and her friends. Or if I
Mm.
were going to have other characters in there, I would have just had other friends of Christopher Robin's come along as well because that it kind of separated the two storylines. It felt like the Christopher Robin storyline with Piglet and Pooh was a separate storyline to the Maria versus Piglet and
Yeah,
Pooh.
it was the whole setup, and then it was over
Yep,
right before the credits
yep,
came up. So it was like, oh, okay, we're not going to follow Christopher Robin. I guess he's
Yeah.
dead or whatever, but then not so dead. But
yeah.
it was just kind of like it was just kind of left hanging for ages, and then oh, there he is, and then hanging for ages, and then wait, is he going to play any other part in this or not?
Hmm.
And Kyle, what did you think? Did Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey work?
Yeah. I agree with Harley. I think that the opening worked, and I can't believe that I was disappointed by a movie called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, a horror film based on Winnie the Pooh. It actually somehow disappointed me. I had higher expectations for this film. Um, but yeah, I think that the initial setup for it worked. I think it could have been interesting. I think the problem was that they were just so in a hurry to pump this thing out that they didn't spend any time on the script or any time on really the even the actual costumes of Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. I think those are the two like physical things in the movie that look so bad. Like I almost wish that Piglet wasn't in the movie so they could have spent twice as much time on the Winnie the Pooh costume. And
Yeah, like
at least
they almost were like, Winnie had a little bit of movement in his sort of
yeah.
face that would happen. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, and the
Yeah.
ears wiggle. Okay. It's like they started doing something, but it just looks like a rubber mask rather than,
Yeah.
shouldn't he be furry like a bear? Like,
Yeah, especially Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, just
yeah.
like so much of the movie, it just feels like okay, you've just got this fat hillbilly guy in a rubber mask smearing it with honey every now
Yeah,
and then, pretending
yeah.
that it's well, no, he's totally eating. See, he's smearing the honey over its face. It looks so cheap in those ways, and I mean, it is cheap movie. It is what you kind of expect it to be, but I guess um, it's a pity that, as you say, they went so far away from the Christopher Robin thing to make it feel like, wait, this is supposed to be a Winnie the Pooh movie, but other than the just the idea of what the masks that the killers are wearing, there's nothing about it past the first 10 minutes of the film that actually makes it a Winnie the Pooh kind of film.
Yeah, and then you like, whenever other people encounter them, they're like, oh, these freaks, these like weirdos. And it's
Yeah,
just like, okay, so you instantly believe that these are, mutated people, which is what they're supposed to
yeah,
be, and not just someone in a weird rubber mask. Because if I saw
yeah.
that, I would just think it was someone wearing a mask.
Yeah, I mean, even that could have worked for the film. I think they could have just had it. Yeah, some crazy guy in a Winnie the Pooh outfit. It doesn't matter. They don't need to stay true to the canon or anything. Like they could have done whatever they wanted. But I
Yeah.
think that like most of the film's problems come from the fact that we're just in such a hurry to get it made. Because a lot of the other technical aspects of the film are like production wise and stuff. Like the actual 100 Acre Wood looks pretty well done for the most part. But
Yeah, I was
yeah,
actually
just
impressed by the
yeah.
staging of that, of the camp where they live, Winnie
Mm.
the Pooh and that.
Yeah,
And I thought,
that
oh,
and
this looks really cool. Like I I
and
I, I was constantly going, oh, is this gonna look really be great or is it gonna look surprisingly good? And it would sort of go back and forth a little bit. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know what I'm supposed to feel here right now.
yeah, and then 15 minutes later they introduce the Suicide Girls, and they just that's the rest of the movie. It's just these bland characters.
Did the
What
did
they
the did the whip made out of Eeyore's tail not do it for you guys?
I on
Was that
uh,
Eeyore's tail?
I
Okay, I was
didn't
trying to
even
Yes.
figure
Yep.
realize
out, is that like, was that his wife's hair or something? Like, I was trying to figure out what that was. And I'm like,
that
how the hell is that hair whip actually cutting his skin open? I'm
that
sorry,
was
I just don't think that would work.
like that was actually well see that was kind of inventive. Like in those ways it's inventive, but otherwise like it feels like a wrong turn knockoff film that just has okay, like they took a script for a wrong turn type of film and just chucked a okay, well we'll have the killers wear Winnie the Pooh masks and call it a Winnie the Pooh movie. And it kind of worked because people were actually talking about this, whereas I don't think they would have been otherwise. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
what did you think of it, David?
Yeah, look, I really thought that the early premise of this worked. I thought that Winnie the Pooh and Piglet being angry at Christopher Robin and not giving him the welcome back to the woods that he was expecting worked. I just thought that the whole storyline, once they brought in the character of Maria and all of her friends, that felt like that was sequel territory. It felt like the first film should have almost been like a Wolf Creek. Well, I remember, if you remember back to the original Wolf Creek, it was just Mick Taylor versus I think three or four backpackers
Mm.
at the start of the first Wolf Creek. And I think the film would have worked if it had just been Christopher Robin, his girlfriend, and maybe thrown somebody else in there so you could have another creative kill versus Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. I thought that would have worked fine for the first film, and then maybe then widen it up where they're on their kill spree going out into the wider universe. But like what Kyle said, it just felt like wrong turn by the time it got to having all of those extra characters coming into it. But I wanted to ask
It
you,
was interesting actually. Those extra characters, I kept waiting for it to link back somehow. I was like, oh, is
Yeah.
this like a relation to Christopher Robin or his wife or something? Is
yeah,
that gonna link back? It's just not, because apparently there's all these like newspaper clippings they show during like the credits of like, oh, murders in 100 Acre Wood. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so it's a regular thing. and then suddenly they're going for a weekend away without phones or something to this cabin. I'm like, hang on, is it established that there's been murders already or not?
But I also wanted to ask you guys what you think, because I had a little bit of a chat to the director, which we're about to hear in a few moments after a quick music track. But during that interview, he talks about the fact that he's making Winnie the Pooh 2. He's making a Neverland, so a Tinkerbell horror film. And he also wants to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles horror film in the future as well. What do you guys think of that? Like, can they work? Is this the right director for that project?
I would say that I would have been a lot more excited for them before watching this movie. Because yeah, just I think this movie, it proves that really all the only thing that was really intriguing about it was just the name. Like this kind of a movie, I think, is the reason that copyright laws exist, is to stop people from taking somebody else's product and using it to make money and not really injecting anything of their own creative wise to really validate it. So I would have been excited about the whole fairy tale violent cinematic universe before, but yeah, not after watching this movie.
I don't know. I can see the potential for it, which is the thing. Like I think if it hadn't come out so quickly with a couple of redrafts of the script and a bit more time taken during filming, it could have been just awesome. And I don't think the director necessarily did bad. It's just there are a few kind of logic jumps with the pacing. It's like, 1 minute they're following the killers to try and save their friend, and they're like right behind them, and then they cut to suddenly they're nowhere around. They're waiting for, uh, one of the killers to put down their friend so that they can attack them. And then suddenly it's just like, okay, the friend's put down, tied up. One of the killers has gone away. There's only one killer there. Where are these girls? Like, where weren't
Yeah.
they going to help their friend? They're just waiting for her to be put down. Like, no, no.
I think I want to see a Sesame Street horror film. I mean, you got this Sesame Street gang led by Big Bird, who's having hallucinations of a woolly mammoth, going on a kill spree with Elmo and Grover and all of his Sesame Street gang. I want to see that one, I think.
I think Elmo would be the creepiest character of the lot. He's kind of like this weird, adorable little thing that like sucks people in, and then he'd probably just like massacre them.
Well, you've
I
got
could
the
see if Oscar the Grouch would like pull people into his garbage pail and just nothing but a spray of blood coming out of it. That would
Yeah,
have
you
been
go down
awesome.
his garbage can, and there's
Yeah.
a whole underworld
Yeah.
cavern, and there's all these like skeletons of his past victims strung up on the wall.
Yeah.
well, you've got Count Dracula there as well, so that's going to work. But
Yeah.
I guess we're moving
One
away.
victims, two victims, three victims.
Today's letter is M for massacre. But yeah, we're
But
moving away from it a bit. But
yeah, but look, there were definitely good things about it, and
yep.
I think it's worth having a look just out of curiosity, even especially if you like the genre or whatever. But yeah, look, a bit more time and consideration would have done a lot for this film. And I think we keep coming back to the same point, is that the Christopher Robin storyline was the strongest.
Yeah.
And even the performer, Nikolai Leon, he was great as Christopher.
Yep.
And that was the strongest part of it. So
And then he
the other
disappears.
performances were a bit iffy, and that's mostly because I just don't think they were fleshed out into anything kind of meaningful, and it just wasn't paced correctly.
I don't even think that they. It feels that sometimes that the filmmaker has just set up the camera and asked them to ad lib. Like a lot of the time, it doesn't feel like there's actually a script. The actors are kind of tripping over their own words
Yeah, well,
sometimes.
it seemed like
Yeah.
there wasn't proper blocking,
Mm.
so they didn't sort of get the pacing of the scene and what movements had to happen where, because it just happened a bit unnaturally.
we got to have this thing done and quick before somebody else makes a Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's grade Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. Like I said, it's out now on streaming platforms and also available in Australia on Blu-ray and DVD through Umbrella Entertainment. Let's grade it. Harley, what are you going to give it out of 5?
Out of 5, I'll give it a 2.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a 2 as well. I think the gore effects, well, the CGI not so much, but the gore effects, if that's what you're looking for in this film, I think those will keep you tied over. But yeah, just as a concept, I think it landed on its knees. So yeah, 2 out of 5 from me.
Yep, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. So a little bit higher than you guys, but yeah, 2.5 out of 5 from me. We're going to take a very, very quick music track now, and we're going to be back with our chat with Reese Frake Waterfield, the director of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. You're on Central Coast Radio, and you're listening to Popcorn Conspiracy.